What a wonderful day! What a wonderful day!
Hey guys, Society Reviews here in my review of the film Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. First it was the rise of the Planet of the Apes, then it was the dawn of the Planet of the Apes, then there was the war of the Planet of the Apes, and now we're at the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I don't know why we're getting another Planet of the Apes movie outside of the fact that Disney's so desperate for money they feel like their $71 billion purchase of 20th Century Fox is actually worth it. One thing that always strikes me about the Planet of the Apes movies is that as an audience member, the film forces you to root against your own team, being the humans. Despite the film's attempt at making you side with the apes over the humans, audiences can never truly accept that the good ending to this series is pretty much the death of humanity. That is, unless you think ending mankind is a good thing, which if that's true, makes you the perfect target audience for the Planet of the Apes franchise. It's hard to believe that well over a decade ago, this franchise started with James Franco and his pet monkey Caesar. Yet here we are 13 years later, and now this franchise wants to move in a completely different direction away from Caesar, which likely has a lot to do with the fact that James Franco's Me Too allegation came to light shortly after the last film. Many generations after Caesar's death, the apes have split into numerous clans. As the humans have reverted into a primal state, Noah, a chimpanzee of an eagle-oriented clan, prepares for his coming-of-age ceremony until a human who infiltrated his camp inadvertently causes him to break one of his eggs that is needed for the ceremony. As Noah attempts to retrieve another one, he is cornered by a rogue ape clan led by Primus Caesar, who kills his father and kidnaps his survivors to bring them to the compound of Caesar. It is here where they realize that this new King Caesar is an ape who wants to advance apes even further with new technology that they believe is locked behind a closed door of a former military compound. Noah and his new human ally, May, are the only two who can stop Caesar's plan from being realized, which could be the end of both the human and the ape species. My biggest flaw with this entire franchise has always been the complete negative view of humanity that the franchise holds as a whole. In the opening acts of this movie, we are reintroduced to a world where apes have gotten progressively smarter to the point where they still have somewhat a functioning society throughout the world, while humans have gotten so aggressively dumber to the point where they can no longer speak or communicate with one another. What this dynamic does is create a future conflict between humans and apes where humans are trying to regain their losses after the initial infection, but the humans' plan of redemption is viewed in a negative light in the context of the story because the apes fear that with the humans back in charge, wars will begin again and some of them might end up back in zoos. The fear of human control is pretty absurd considering what has happened up to this point with monkeys running the show, and needless to say, things haven't gotten much better. For this film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is somewhat a soft reboot of this franchise that focuses on a nearly different time period and an entirely different character. However, the new character of Noah, played by O.R.C.A, looks identical to Caesar. This creative decision makes me wonder why they changed the character in the first place, unless it was to 1, forget about the past star's allegations, or 2, the franchise had gotten too big to afford Andy Serkis. When Andy Serkis was the focal point of this franchise, audiences knew what they were getting into. They knew they were getting a great acting performance that could carry a central narrative very well. However, removing him from the picture, audiences are essentially asked to start from scratch with a lesser actor and a lesser group of characters who don't hold the same weight as the previous ones. Freya Allan is the human element of this movie, and she is inserted into the franchise as a girl who is far smarter than any of the humans of this time. For a movie that's almost 2 hours and 30 minutes long, the pacing of this film, especially in the first hour, is very slow and methodical, and it takes a lot of time for the audience to sit into the story. While the pace does pick up in the third act, questions had to be asked whether this is the best creative decision to jump us back into a franchise that had been stalled for over 7 years. The toughest thing about this film is the series is trying to portray the antagonist and the protagonist under the same light that both sides are essentially trying to do what is right for their species. However, both have flaws and both have points, meaning that it is up to the audience discretion to figure out who they want to side with. If you take the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes with a more mindless popcorn-consuming angle, you are more likely to enjoy this film in a year that struggles to have a big-name film that plays up to its audiences. However, the flaw of this movie, as with many others, is that when you begin to apply logic to a world that has created so many concepts, it either falls apart or it doesn't land the way that the filmmakers intended. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is a satisfiable mush of characters, angles, and world building. However, it doesn't elevate what was already established in previous movies. I give this film a 2.5 out of 5.
You chose a human over an ape.